G'day. Just out doing our first test. After doing the wide body, and also at the last round, which was our first time racing it, we had a little vibration. So I wanted to check that out. We thought we'd sort of resolved it with the muffler, but it's definitely still there. So we've been drilling down on it throughout the day. We're at Malala in South Australia and got the whole entire track to ourselves today, just till lunchtime. Yeah, just a private test. So here's the car sitting here to the scrutineering shed. Yeah, which is nice because we can just park next to it and just work straight out the back of the car. It's just less things to do, but good thing was just checking all this, so clearance and all that shit. Everything went sweet. So 0 rubs in the front end. Just been keeping an eye on it and slowly built up the speed. Something interesting about the exhaust that I noted, so I just made this little steno plate just to make sure that we don't melt the fiberglass and create fire, but the system obviously runs sort of inline back to the engine, and just with the heat, it's expanding, and this is moving right up to the edge of that plate, so it's moving like 8, almost 10 mil. So I'm going to have to trim that out a bit more, but that was interesting to see because I noticed it and we're like, whoa, what's going on there? And then as it cooled down, it went back. So it shows how much expansion's in that, and this pipe section mounts into the mufflers, and it's on like a couple of little spring mounts, so it's got some movement in it, so as it expands it can all move. The rears was good. I was thinking that we might have got some rubbing up inside the guard or like on the edges or something, but they were all actually fine. And even though we were down on a bit of power and had the vibration still, I was still just pushing really hard in the corners to try and sort of find all these issues. This is the only one. So basically totaled the bottom of the skirt there. That's through turn 1, there's a dip. And so as you're fully loaded, so on the data we're just clipping 2G, and it just hits in the dip, and it's fully maxing out, you know, the bump, so the travel, the wheels like riding right up, and it's smacking sort of the inside. And I thought it might do that because previous photos of the car in that corner was already getting really low. So we're at a much stiffer spring rate, gone up like 150 pounds all round, but it's still not enough. So I'll probably reshape the bottom of this a little bit and maybe even put a plate on the bottom. But I think half the issue is probably the roll bar. It's just too soft. I've got to redesign it. And I reckon, you know, when it's hitting that bump, it's just rolling over the spring a bit too much. But yeah, otherwise, man, it went well. So the good thing was, even down a couple of pounds with a vibration, which we think we found a lambda sensor on one of the turbos was cutting in and out, and now it's just out. We think that's actually throwing the tune out a bit, and then because the way it's set up is each rotor has one turbo on it, so it's sort of a separate system. So it's got its own exhaust up to the turbo and then its own dump. And then, so you've got basically 2 single rotor turbos put together, but then the inlet is a single inlet that merges, and there's like a crossover pipe. So what I think's happening, or what we're hoping's happening, is with lambda not reading on one of them, the tune is adjusting on that side, and that's what's sort of throwing the balance of the motor out. So almost the more I gave it, the more it went away, but it wasn't hitting boost, and it still just wasn't as crisp up top when it was running. It actually felt alright down low, but it's like as it got RPM, didn't want to go. Felt like it was getting retarded a little bit. But even with that happening, so we're way down on the straight line speed, like 30 something k's an hour. For most of the track, I was actually up on our best possible lap. So I was just hemorrhaging time down the straights. So that's already a huge positive, because through turn 1, 2, and even down into 3, without heaps of straight line to sort of slow us down, you know, I was up like almost a second in half a track with less power. So I think the bigger tyre is definitely doing the job. And obviously that spring rate is working the tyre nice. Actually felt really good in the corners. So yeah, so we're going to get another sensor, chuck it in. We will either get it on a dyno and run it up and see if we can make sure it's working all right, or bring it back out because we've got a week and a half until we go again. I'll just show you. So this is on air jacks at the moment. I've never seen air jacks. So they sit under here. Right, so this is what an air jack looks like. Right. So literally a tube, air, nitrogen in the top, up to the bottom. Right, and it comes out up under there, and it's just a little foot. So you can see them all here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Some cars use 3, like one in the rear. And then they've obviously got an air line that runs all the way to the back. They all merge. And then we use nitrogen. This is the lance. So if I pop the boot, I'll show you this here. So that's the air line coming through there. Comes through this little guy here. And then there's basically a lance that just plugs in on that. And that shoots the air in out of the nitrogen bottle. One of these guys here. It's on the trailer because that's how we transport it, but we put it in the trolley and use it off the trolley through the day. And nitrogen, because it's not as susceptible to moisture, so you don't get moisture through the system, and it operates at a nice pressure and all that sort of stuff. And then when we want to pull the car down, just pull this little guy here. You can see that, it's windy and everything. Let's put this here, show you how it goes. Is that looking alright? That's it. So good. Benefits of the air jack. You're not carrying a jack around, and you can see how low it sits. Trying to actually get a jack under there, next to impossible. So you can come in from the back to get under the diff and then chock it and then get on one side and then get on the other side. Absolute pain in the ass. So having air jacks at the track like this, it's so good. The boys love it because we can come in, put it straight up on the air jacks, vent the brakes, keep rotating the tyres so we don't get hot spots. Yeah, and start going through the car ready for the next session. So that's it. I'll show you guys a couple of little passes that we got from pit wall and see what happens if we can get hold of this this vibration and get ready for the next round. Take it easy.